on self-reported diets. They've observed changes in blood sugar. They have observed changes in blood pressure. They have observed changes related to oxidative stress. And they have found changes in biological processes associated with autophagy. But there is an important limitation. These studies are usually small and they're usually short. So they can tell us something about what happens to the body over a relatively short period. They cannot easily tell us whether fasting will make someone live 5 or 10 years longer. That requires enormous long-term studies, and that is much harder. So what could solve this problem? Technology. Scientists are developing new ways to measure eating behavior without relying entirely on memory. Some researchers are using photographs of meals. Others are experimenting with wearable cameras. There are devices that can detect chewing. There are smart forks that can monitor eating behavior. And researchers have even developed experimental sensors that can be attached to teeth. The purpose is not to make people's lives miserable. The purpose is to measure reality, because if we want to know whether a diet works, we need to know what people actually ate. Blood and urine tests may also provide important information. Instead of asking, "What did you eat yesterday?" researchers may be able to examine biological markers showing what nutrients the body was actually processing. This could become extremely important. Imagine a future nutrition study where researchers can combine several kinds of information. They know when you ate. They know approximately what you ate. They can measure biological markers. They can measure physical activity. They can measure sleep. They can measure body weight and body composition. Suddenly, the study becomes much more powerful. We can begin to separate cause from coincidence, and that may finally answer the biggest question about intermittent fasting. Is fasting itself responsible for the benefits, or are most of the benefits coming from the fact that people simply eat less? Perhaps both are important. Perhaps fasting has some independent biological effects. Perhaps those effects are small, perhaps they are large. We do not yet have a complete answer, and that is perfectly acceptable. Science does not become weak because it says we don't know yet. In fact, that may be one of the strongest scientific statements we can make. The problem begins when uncertainty is replaced by certainty, when a mouse study becomes a human health promise, when a possible mechanism becomes a guaranteed outcome, when a small study becomes proof, and when a health influencer takes a complicated scientific paper and turns it into, "Do this for 16 hours and your body will repair itself." Real biology is more complicated, but it is also more fascinating.